Welcome! Today we're diving into a complex, fascinating look at 12 countries where Israelis can no longer visit in 2024. It's surprising, even shocking, to think about how borders can close to entire nations based on political alliances, histories, and ideologies. Have you ever wondered which countries and why? Well, get ready because we're about to explore each of these nations and uncover the reasons behind these prohibitions. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay till the end. There's so much to unpack. And trust me, you won't want to miss it. Number 12. Pakistan. Since its founding in 1947, Pakistan has remained entirely off-limits to Israeli citizens. This stringent travel ban, enforced by the Pakistani government, reflects long-standing political and ideological divides between the two nations. A full 100% of Israeli nationals are prohibited from entering Pakistan, according to the Pakistani Foreign Ministry in 2022, a policy that speaks volumes about the enduring animosity between the two countries. Pakistan has been a steadfast supporter of the Palestinian cause, with public opinion strongly mirroring this stance. A 2020 survey by Pew Research found that a remarkable 90% of Pakistanis hold an unfavorable view of Israel. This underlying hostility is seen even in the absence of any direct flights connecting the two countries. In 2020, Prime Minister Imran Khan famously declared that Pakistan would never recognize Israel, echoing the sentiments of 85% of Pakistanis who consider Israel a major threat to Muslim nations. Meanwhile, only 10% of Israeli Jews view Pakistan as a potential ally. Despite international moves toward normalization, Pakistan's unwavering support for Palestine and its strict policies ensure it remains a no-go zone for Israelis, with the hope of diplomatic rapprochement now seeming more remote than ever. Number 11. Iraq has been an off-limits territory for Israeli citizens since 2003, following the US-led invasion that dismantled Saddam Hussein's regime. Hussein, known for his fierce opposition to Israel, left a legacy of animosity that subsequent Iraqi governments have upheld. Today, Israeli passport holders are strictly barred from entering Iraq, a policy deeply rooted in the country's national identity and political landscape. A staggering 98% of Iraqis harbor negative sentiments toward Israel, as revealed in a 2019 survey. Furthermore, 92% of the population views Israel's actions regarding Palestine as unjustifiable, underscoring the pervasive solidarity with the Palestinian cause. The Iraqi government has officially labeled Israel as an enemy state, and this declaration is mirrored in the absence of any direct flights connecting the two nations. There are currently no available. For Israeli travelers, the path to Iraq is blocked by historical grievances and a political landscape that shows no signs of thawing. With diplomatic relations firmly non-existent, Iraq remains a country where any notion of normalization with Israel is unthinkable, reflecting a broader commitment to supporting Palestine. As such, Iraq stands as a stronghold of resistance against Israeli presence, ensuring that its borders remain firmly closed to Israeli citizens. Number 10. Afghanistan. A country nestled in the heart of South Asia, has stood as a prohibited frontier for Israeli citizens since 1996. The ascension of the Taliban to power marked the beginning of a rigid ban on Israeli entry, driven by deep-seated political tensions and a firm ideological commitment to the Palestinian cause. Public sentiment in Afghanistan is overwhelmingly against Israel, with a striking 99% of Afghans expressing unfavorable views toward the nation, as revealed by a 2019 survey. Furthermore, 95% believe that Israel's actions toward Palestinians are deeply unjust, reflecting a nationwide consensus rooted in historical grievances and solidarity with their Palestinian brothers and sisters. The absence of any direct flights between Afghanistan and Israel only compounds the isolation. The Taliban's declaration of Israel as an enemy state underscores the impossibility of travel for Israeli citizens. As a result, Israelis find themselves navigating around Afghanistan, a land rich in culture and history, yet closed off to them. The stalemate in diplomatic relations leaves no room for hope of normalization, firmly sealing the door to Afghanistan for Israeli travelers who must seek out other pathways for adventure and exploration. Number 9. Malaysia. Nestled in Southeast Asia, has effectively closed its doors to Israeli travelers since 2017. The Pakatan Harapan government, driven by a commitment to support Palestine, swiftly enacted a strict travel ban that reflects the country's deep-seated political sentiments. This decision was fueled by a widespread perception among Malaysians with a striking 94% expressing negative views toward Israel, as revealed in a 2020 survey. The Malaysian government has gone a step further by refusing to recognize Israel, reinforcing the already tense diplomatic relationship. A significant 88% of the population believes that Israel's treatment of Palestinians is unjustifiable, a sentiment that resonates strongly throughout the nation. Consequently, direct flights between Israel and Malaysia are non-existent, with 0% availability serving as a testament to the travel restrictions in place. Visa restrictions for Israelis are stringent, making entry into Malaysia virtually impossible. This reality compels Israeli citizens to seek alternative travel options, while Malaysians remain united in their firm stance against any normalization of relations. With no diplomatic dialogue on the horizon, the gateway to Malaysia remains firmly closed, leaving Israeli travelers on the outside looking in. Number 8. Lebanon has kept its doors firmly shut to Israeli citizens since 1948, and with political tensions running deep, there's little sign this will change soon. The Lebanese government, long aligned with the Palestinian cause, solidified its stance that year by formally refusing to recognize Israel. This position reflects public sentiment too. A 2020 survey revealed that 98% of Lebanese hold an unfavorable view of Israel, with 95% condemning Israel's actions toward Palestine as unjustified. Adding to the divide, there are no direct flights between the two nations. Tensions along that border have only escalated, with a 70% increase in security incidents since 2020, making the region even more volatile. For Israeli travelers, Lebanon remains an off-limits destination, firmly closed by both government policy and a powerful sense of national sentiment against normalization. Number 7. Maldives. An idyllic paradise in the Indian Ocean has barred Israeli citizens from entry since 2018, a move driven by political and diplomatic tensions. Led by President Ibrahim Mohamed Solih, the Maldives government enacted this restriction in a show of unwavering support for Palestine, severing all diplomatic ties with Israel that same year. For Maldivians, the solidarity runs deep, with a 2020 survey showing that 92% view Israel unfavorably, while 88% feel Israel's treatment of Palestinians is unjust. This policy has kept Israeli travelers from experiencing the Maldives' famed turquoise waters and luxurious resorts. With no direct flights connecting the two nations, a stark reminder of their strained relationship. Despite the island nation's booming tourism industry, the Maldives remains closed to Israelis, highlighting how deeply the political divide influences even leisure travel. As this archipelago remains off-limits, questions linger. Will the Maldives ever open its doors to Israel? For now, that sunlit escape remains out of reach. Number 6. Kuwait. Kuwait, a prominent oil-rich country in the Persian Gulf, has strictly barred Israeli citizens from entry since 1961, a stance that reflects its firm political and cultural alignment. Following the Gulf War, Kuwait's government took an uncompromising position, refusing to recognize Israel and distancing itself entirely. This policy, backed by the influential Al Sabah royal family, aligns closely with public sentiment. A 2020 survey showed that a striking 97% of Kuwaitis hold unfavorable views of Israel, while 92% consider Israel's actions against Palestine unjustifiable. For Israeli travelers, Kuwait is an unreachable destination. No direct flights connect the two nations, and Kuwait's entry laws block Israelis from visiting. This restriction has left Kuwait as an unexplored frontier for Israelis, where the country's rich heritage and cultural landmarks remain inaccessible. Despite a global trend of warming relations between some Arab states and Israel, Kuwait remains resolute in its refusal to normalize, with no signs of opening its doors to Israeli citizens in the near future. Number 5. Bangladesh. A vibrant nation in South Asia, has kept its borders firmly closed to Israeli travelers since its independence in 1971. Shortly after breaking away from Pakistan, the newly formed government established a strict no-entry policy for Israeli citizens, a stance deeply intertwined with its solidarity with Palestine. Today, this restriction remains unyielding, reflecting both historical alliances and the views of its people. A 2019 survey revealed that 98% of Bangladeshis hold unfavorable views of Israel, while an additional 95% see Israel's actions in Palestine as deeply unjust. This public sentiment aligns with the official government policy. Bangladeshi passports are marked "not valid for travel to Israel," a unique reminder of the country's stance. Direct flights are also entirely absent between the two nations, with no available options, reinforcing a disconnect on both diplomatic and practical fronts. For Israelis, Bangladesh remains off-limits, a place where the political divide is as vast as the geographical distance. With no indication of shifting policy, Israeli travelers continue to seek other destinations, while Bangladesh stands unwavering in its refusal to normalize relations. Number 4. Iran. For Israeli citizens, Iran is one of the most inaccessible destinations in the Middle East, a reality shaped since the Iranian Revolution of 1979. This pivotal year marked a shift as Iran transformed into an Islamic republic with a firm anti-Israel stance. The rift between the two countries has deepened over the decades, with Iran formally designating Israel as an enemy state. This designation means that Israeli passport holders are strictly barred from entry, with no direct flights and no diplomatic bridges connecting the two nations. Public sentiment in Iran mirrors this stance, as evidenced by a 2020 survey where a staggering 99% of Iranians held unfavorable views of Israel, and 95% condemned Israel's treatment of Palestinians. With such entrenched perspectives, Iran's ban on Israeli travelers remains not just a policy, but a symbol of its long-standing political and ideological position. The door to Iran, it seems, will remain firmly shut to Israelis, a tangible reflection of one of the region's most enduring rivalries. Number 3. Qatar, a small yet influential nation in the Gulf region, has kept its doors firmly closed to Israeli travelers since 2000. This decision stems from a strong political commitment led by the ruling Al Thani family, which has positioned itself as a vocal supporter of Palestinian rights. Following the declaration in 2000 that Qatar would not recognize Israel, a deep chasm was created, effectively severing any potential ties. Public sentiment further complicates the issue. A significant 97% of Qataris view Israel unfavorably, as revealed in a 2019 survey. Among these, 92% believe that Israel's policies toward Palestine are not only unjust but also detrimental to regional peace. Despite the absence of formal diplomatic relations, there have been sporadic discussions aimed at normalization. However, the practicalities of travel remain daunting, with only 2% of flights being indirect and no direct routes available. Visa restrictions imposed by the Qatari government add another layer of complexity, making it nearly impossible for Israelis to visit. Consequently, Israeli citizens seeking travel options find themselves exploring other destinations, while Qatar remains resolute in its stance against normalization. With the political climate showing little promise for change, the gates to Qatar remain firmly shut, ensuring that Israeli travelers are left to ponder the mysteries of this vibrant nation from afar. Number 2. Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, the largest nation in the Middle East, has effectively closed its doors to Israeli citizens since the founding of Israel in 1948. The Al Saud royal family, which governs the kingdom, has implemented a rigorous ban on Israeli travel, driven by ongoing political tensions and a long-standing diplomatic rift. From the outset, Saudi Arabia made it clear that it would not recognize Israel, a decision that has only solidified the animosity between the two nations over the decades. A striking 99% of Saudis expressed unfavorable views of Israel in a 2020 survey, with 95% of the population deeming Israel's actions towards Palestine as deeply unjust. The lack of direct flights between Israel and Saudi Arabia is a tangible reflection of this hostility, with absolutely no routes available. Furthermore, the Saudi government has established stringent visa regulations that effectively block any entry for Israeli citizens. Consequently, Israeli travelers must seek alternatives when exploring the region, while Saudis remain unwavering in their refusal to normalize relations with Israel. With no diplomatic dialogue on the horizon, the gates to Saudi Arabia remain firmly closed for Israeli nationals, marking an enduring geopolitical divide. Number 1. Syria. Syria has been a forbidden land for Israeli citizens since 1948, when the tumultuous Arab-Israeli conflict first erupted. Under the rule of the Assad regime, a strict prohibition against Israeli travel has remained in place, driven by deep-rooted animosities and ongoing political tensions. The declaration of war in the same year established a bitter rivalry that has only intensified over the decades. Recent studies reveal a striking 99% of Syrians view Israel unfavorably, illustrating the strong sentiment against normalization. Furthermore, a staggering 96% of the population believes that Israel's actions towards the Palestinian people are fundamentally unjust. These statistics reflect a national consciousness that prioritizes solidarity with Palestine over any potential diplomatic or economic advantages. Traveling between Israel and Syria is virtually impossible, as there are currently no direct flights linking the two nations. Strict visa regulations further entrench this divide, leaving Israeli travelers with few options but to seek alternate destinations. As the Assad regime continues to uphold this barrier, the prospect of reconciliation seems bleak, and the door to Syria remains resolutely closed for those holding Israeli passports. In this complex political landscape, Syrian opposition to Israel remains unwavering, with the future of normalization appearing increasingly distant. So there you have it, the 12 countries that Israelis are unable to visit in 2024. Each country's restriction carries its own story, a complex mix of history, politics, and identity. This exploration highlights how international relations are often shaped by much more than just borders. They're about alliances, values, and sometimes even old wounds. If you found this journey through geopolitics intriguing, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more insights.